What a sight. Thank you so much. You know, the cops asked us to hold off on the air horns and the whistles. And the guy standing next to you might be a cop, so think about that. We want to respect NYPD and all of our police officers. I want to start, before I introduce the governor, to remind us all why we're here. For more than 40 years, Time Warner provided cable and eventually phone and internet services for most of New York City residents and businesses under franchise agreements with the city of New York. Their employees were represented by Local 3 of the IBEW, the union, 30,000 strong in New York City and more than 750,000 across the United States and Canada. There's my Local 3. I know, you're here. And this workforce was very productive and highly skilled, and we had a great relationship with Time Warner. And we negotiated contracts every 3 years. And for those 40 years, those employees enjoyed the benefits that every one of us strive to have: a defined benefit pension, health care, good health care, and health care in retirement. That's what we want, right? Well, the story changed. When Charter came into New York and the PSC approved the merger, they agreed to a couple of things: to build out the system in places where it needed to be built out. And another very important thing they agreed to was not to replace the customer-facing workforce. There were protections for the workers. They came to the table, and the first proposal in the negotiations was to eliminate the union pension fund and the union medical. And they knew that demand would cause a strike. And they insisted on it. And there was a strike. Those workers stood up for those benefits. They knew that strike would result in hardship. They basically had 1,800 people out of work. They starved them into submission. And unfortunately, some of them went back to that company under the implemented terms. Very, very tough decision. I know that. But the fact is that was the plan from the beginning: force a strike and then force a decertification of the union. A month ago, the governor stepped up, got involved. Well, let me say this. The governor's been with us since day one, when we crossed that bridge and we were in Brooklyn. But he got the parties back together a month ago, and we made every effort to make an agreement. And as I negotiated those terms, I wasn't just negotiating to get the strikers back. I was negotiating to maintain standards for the whole workforce. And as we got closer, very close, they realized if they make an agreement, then they would lose on the decertification, and the workforce would want to have a union contract. And what did they do? They walked away from the negotiations. And that's why we're here again today, unfortunately, to send a message to this company, this union-busting company, that it ain't gonna work here. And if we don't get a contract, we're gonna run Spectrum Charter out of New York City and out of New York State. They are bad news for workers. We don't deserve it. Nobody deserves it. So this afternoon, I have the privilege of introducing our governor, Governor Andrew Cuomo. Let's hear it for the governor. Absolutely. There go the horns again. Cuomo. Let me tell you, there is no better friend of labor in this country than Governor Andrew Cuomo. He understands that organized labor is the core of the middle class and is fighting every day to support hardworking men and women and ensure that unions in New York State thrive. He has stood by the side of unions in good times and in bad times. He's fought not only to protect union rights in these challenging times, but also to strengthen and expand those rights. And today, he is with us once again to support our cause and to stand up to those who are trying to hurt workers. Together with Governor Cuomo by our side, we're sending a clear message to corporate giants like Charter Spectrum that we will not let them marginalize our hardworking union families in New York State. We are saying with one voice that all workers deserve to be treated with fairness and respect. So please welcome a longtime friend of New York's working brothers and sisters, a tireless champion in the fight for organized labor, Governor Andrew M. Cuomo.
Thank you. Thank you. Do we have labor in the house today? Is labor fired up? Give Chris Erickson a big round of applause. I may not be able to plug in an extension cord, but today I became a member of Local 3. We are all here in solidarity with you. Mario Salento and the whole AFL-CIO is in solidarity with you. Peter Ward and the HTC, 1199, DC 37, the CWA, the building trades, they're all here with you. And the government of the state and the city of New Yorkers here, Carl Hastie from the New York State Assembly, Diane Savino and Liz Kruger from the State Senate. We have justice in the House with the next Attorney General, Tish James. We have the New York City Council. Now, I am an old Queens boy, if you can't tell from the accent. And I learned from one of the giants, Harry Van Arsdale. And Harry Van Arsdale taught me that the labor movement is about two things. It's about fairness and it's about respect. And that's what we're saying to Charter Spectrum and every corporation in this state. You have to show the workforce fairness and respect. That means fair pay. It means fair pensions, fair benefits, fair work rules, and respect for the workforce. And what Charter Spectrum has done is a gross injustice. They have abused the workers. Now, this is a corporation that is making plenty and plenty of money, my friends. The CEO in 2016 made $100 million. The COO of Charter Spectrum, $50 million. The company made $15 billion. How dare you abuse the hard-working men and women that built that company and put the money in your pocket? And my friends, Charter Spectrum didn't just mistreat you and lie to you. Charter Spectrum lied to the people of the state of New York. because Chris Erickson is exactly right. They got a franchise agreement from the state, and they promised to do certain things. They promised to keep the customer-friendly workforce that was trained, and they turned around and they kicked you to the street. They promised to serve underserved households, and the state of New York has fined them, and we want to fine them $20 million for violating that agreement. And Charter Spectrum. And Charter Spectrum has a news organization that they own and they run, right? You want to know what's interesting about their news organization? It is a very selective memory, their news organization. You know what their news organization never covered? The fact that the state of New York is trying to take away their franchise and kick them out of New York. You know what their news organization failed to cover? The fact that 2,000 Local 3 members were kicked to the street and are rallying for 2 years for fairness and decency. Look, this is not just about Charter Spectrum. They're just one of the worst examples. What's happening in this country is there's more and more corporate power, and they're trying to abuse workers. It's happening all across the board. It's happening all across the nation. But we're saying it's not going to happen in this state of New York. We know it's the labor movement that built the middle class. It's the labor movement that represents the hardworking men and women. It's the labor movement that built the state of New York. It's the labor movement that built the United States of America. And we are going to stand shoulder to shoulder with the working men and women of this state. Your fight is our fight. Until you win, none of us wins. And we pledge to you today to stand united, because workers united will never be defeated. 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 Go get them!
Nice. Very nice. Enjoy that? He means it. He means every word. It's my pleasure to now introduce our president in the New York State AFL-CIO, Mario Salento.
You know, brothers and sisters, he's off to the side, but let me just say this. We marched over that Brooklyn Bridge a year and a half ago. Andrew Cuomo was with us then. He's with us now. We'll always be with him. Let's hear it for the governor of the state of New York, who kept his promise. Who kept his promise and kept his word. That's what leadership is all about. I want to thank Speaker Hasty for being here, and Tish James for being here, and all of the elected officials. Brothers and sisters, remember this, as the governor said, we are all in this fight together. Labor's fight is this fight as one movement and one family. That's who we are. That's what Spectrum doesn't understand. They don't understand that, brothers and sisters. When we marched over that bridge as a movement, we made a promise to one another. We made a commitment to one another that where Local 3 goes, we go as a labor movement. And that's what Charter Spectrum didn't understand. They thought all this time later that the labor movement would abandon its brothers and sisters of Local 3. They thought we would leave you off to the side. They don't understand, brothers and sisters, what's inside of us. They don't understand that we're a family. They don't understand that if you pick on one of us, you have to deal with all of us. Every single one, because we are one. We are one.